All right, everyone, another day, another foreign policy error by the Biden administration. They came out there for the last few weeks begging Netanyahu not to attack Rafah. Please, don't enter Rafah. Leave it alone. Don't do anything there. Let's have a negotiation. Let cooler heads prevail. Netanyahu said, no, I'm not going to do that at all. The original tentative deal that Israel would have agreed to was spiked by the Palestinians, and again, Hamas said, well, no, you got this other deal. It was brokered by the Egyptians mainly. And we'll accept that. Ball's in your court, Bibi. And Bibi said no. Now, I mean, it makes sense logistically for him to say no. And he had already warned that ceasefire deal was possible, but that he intended to send the IDF into Rafah. And so they've seized the Gazan side of the Rafah crossing, which I think they already took over on the Egyptian side, so they control it. Now, this is a main aid corridor into Gaza, which means that'll be throttled for some time. Now that they have to reestablish, control of that crossing, and they have to make sure that everything's set up. I think they want to check the aid more stringently or something like that, and probably choke off Hamas from being resupplied. So they're trying to move as many civilians out of Rafah as possible, because they're going to bomb it. And they were launching attacks actually earlier. They want to bomb it, so they get the civilians out, and they're hoping to starve off the last main stronghold that Hamas could possibly be reorganizing in, which strategically makes sense. My worry is manifold here. The first worry is that when you're shuttling people around the wreckage of what used to be Gaza endlessly, while also, fiddling around with aid supply routes, people are going to starve. They're not going to have access to clean water, to food, and to things that they need to survive. And so people are going to die of that, not just because they got hit by an explosion or shot or anything like that. Killed by an IDF sniper, executed by Hamas, etc. Another problem, and this is really a problem for Netanyahu more than anything, is that the families of the remnant hostages are really pissed off right now. And they're like, just fucking get them home, get the hostages released. And so I think they would be willing to agree to the terms of a temporary ceasefire in return for that. Israel wants more than that out of the deal, though. And by the way, we're only talking about a temporary ceasefire should a deal even be reached. We're not talking about Israel withdrawing from the Gaza Strip. We're not talking about Hamas disarming. They swear up and down that if the Palestinian state were officially recognized along its current borders, that they would disarm. They would no longer be militarized. I doubt that somehow, considering their slogans and considering the track record. I think that's probably not going to happen. Just like if Israel says, well, if Hamas gives us the hostages and disarms and stuff, we'll leave you alone and Palestine will be free, basically. I don't think that either. I think at this point, you have so much intergenerational bad blood and so much tit-for-tat killings and bombings and so forth, and so many other actors within the region that are, semi-hostile towards one another. It's logistically, it's almost impossible to conceive of a scenario in which there's ever anything other than maybe a bit of seeming calm for extended periods of time, truncated by terrorist attacks and bombings and raids and things like that, and hostages, suicide bombings, IDF assassinations of Hamas members and stuff, targeted strikes in Syria and elsewhere. I don't see really how it can calm down now. The way to at least achieve the seeming calm is to have a strong Western leader that can sort of force the issue, that has the leverage charismatically, diplomatically, has the skill set necessary to be able to talk Netanyahu and the Hamas leadership down and say, look, this is no good for anyone. We need to cut it out, basically. Sweeten the deal on both sides or something like that and try to restore some semblance of order in the region. It's never really had full order, but there have been periods of time where there's a lot less fighting, where borders are not being crossed generally, etc., etc. There's also another problem. Netanyahu swore up and down that he was going to take unilateral control of Gaza and would not relinquish it. That is, that the PLO would not be recognized as a governing authority and intended to create effectively a no man's land around the entire Gaza Strip. So basically a killing field, don't cross here unless it's at a crossing, no more incursions. Neither of those are going to sit well with any reigning Palestinian authority, whether it's Hamas or not. If the Palestinian people today were to rise up and say enough is enough, and they were to slaughter all the Hamas members, so they kill several tens of thousands of militants, and they say to Netanyahu, look, we did it for you. Hamas is over. They no longer exist. We reestablished the PLO and stuff like that. Do I think that the new governing authority would necessarily be willing to work with Israel either? Not necessarily. Do I think that the Israelis would necessarily even accept the premise? No, I don't. I honestly don't. In the absence of a strong Western leader to keep things in line, bad things happen. What happened with Hamas crossing in Israel, Israel now invading Gaza. What happened with Russia invading Ukraine? What happens when China says, Taiwan is looking awfully nice this time of year? When Venezuela says, hey, more oil sales are always a good thing. Let's grab Essequibo. With the collapse of part of ECOWAS and the formation of an East Bloc-inspired stronghold with Burkina Faso and Niger and some of these countries, all of these things, and now Algeria, I believe, if I remember correctly, or is it Mauritania? I can't remember which one. Maybe it's both. All of these things have happened under Biden's watch because there's no strong central leader. Netanyahu knows this. He knows not to rely on Biden. Hamas knows this. They know not to rely upon the U.S. to broker diplomacy because it ain't going nowhere. The best we can do is send Blinken over. We'd be better off sending Kamala Harris, arguably, at this point. Send Buttigieg. He's, gays for Palestine and stuff like that. He should get along fine with people. I'm sure that Hamas would love to have Pete Buttigieg there to talk to them. I think that they would not find it insulting at all. Problem being, he's the only one in the administration capable of creating a coherent narrative and actually has some degree of speaking skills. All the others are a bunch of befuddled morons. Biden can barely chuckle out a single sentence without making some horrible grammatical error or some major gaffe. Kamala's somehow worse, and Blinken's arguably the worst of them. And I get a big problem here. There's no leader. If Trump were in there, I bet that the attack never would have happened in the first place, necessitating the Israeli response. All you need is sane central diplomacy. Speak softly, carry a big stick. Occasionally you have to sweeten the deal with people. And that's it. At least you have seeming calm. People have bread on the table. And water sometimes. Sometimes maybe they even have electricity. I bet that the power's out all over Gaza. I don't think that there's much in the way of electrical generation going on. If somebody did rig an electrical generator, it'd probably get bombed by the IDF. Well, clearly they're manufacturing explosives, with this energy, so we can't allow that, and they blow it up. It's a shit situation for all sides involved. And the way forward, honestly, is just to reestablish solid Western leadership so that we can get people in there in a diplomatic fashion that don't just wag their fingers and then do stupid shit. Biden, we're unequivocally for Israel, but we're going to hold up this ammo shipment to you because, we want a ceasefire first. We would like that. And then Netanyahu says, who cares? Dude, he'll start buying AKs from the goddamn Russians before he'll acquiesce to what Biden is saying. If there's a ceasefire at all, it's going to have to be hammered out between these two unstable nations. It's not going to be able to be brokered by the United States. They're leaning on the Egyptians more than anybody else to try to restore things there. Egypt. Okay, yeah, the situation's normal, all fucked up. That's about all. Peace out.